I wanted to come at you with a 1,000 round torture test and update on my Kahr CW380 and tell you a little bit about the ammo that I used and what I found that works well, what doesn't. First thing, let's go through and safety check this. This weapon has been cleared. Number one, I will tell you that Kahr in their manual suggests that you run 200 rounds of ammunition through this weapon before it is deemed reliable. In those first 200 rounds, you will get many failure to feeds, failures to extracts, failures to go into battery. You will question whether you made the right decision in purchasing this weapon in those first 200 rounds. By all means, do not buy this weapon. Load up your magazine, put it in your favorite holster, and go out and think you're going to defend yourself with this weapon without running a break-in period in it. Okay, I started my break-in period with UMC 380 brass full metal jacket. I can tell you within the first 200 rounds of the break-in period, I experienced many failure to feed, failure to fire, and failure to go into battery. I did question whether it was a mistake in buying this weapon. I can tell you when I got to about 150 rounds, all the issues stopped. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was literally like 150 rounds of this ammunition, and then it functioned flawlessly. For the next 50 rounds to up to 200 rounds, I actually went 300 rounds for my break-in period, and at that time I had zero failure to feed, failure to fire, failure to go into batteries once I got past 150 rounds. I then jumped on the internet and was searching for just regular range ammo because I wanted to even put more time in on this weapon before I was going to rely on it for a a defensive weapon. And what I did was I discovered MaxTech 380 full metal jacket, again brass. I'm not a real big fan of steel cased ammo, or I could probably have gone a lot cheaper, but I did find a deal on Cheaper Than Dirt that they were it was a 1,000 round bucket of this ammo, and it was down to, I want to say, about 19 to 20 cents per round, which is ridiculous. You can look at the time of the recording of this review, and you'll see that was a great deal for 380 ammo. I am glad that I purchased 250 rounds prior to purchasing 1,000 rounds, because I can tell you that almost every single round of this ammo had a failure to go into battery. Basically what happened was every time the slide would cycle and try and load that next round, the slide would come forward and it would stop about right there, leaving that much at the back where it basically, the slide was almost all the way closed, but it was getting hung up going into the barrel. I had to actually take my other hand and push it into battery to fire the round. Like clockwork, the next round did the same thing. The next round did the same thing over and over and over again. I figured that just like the UMC, I was going to have to get to over 100 rounds of the MaxTech and it would start functioning properly. That never happened. I got all the way up to 200, 250 rounds, and all the way up to the last round I continued to experience failures to go into battery. Next up, I found a great deal on Fiocchi, again 1,000 rounds, but after experiencing the problems with MaxTech, I said to myself, I better go and order a few boxes of this, and it is 95 grain, full metal jacket, brass again, and the range that I go to on a regular basis, this is what they sell to people that are coming in just to do some target shooting. And they said they have never seen any real issues with this ammo, whether it is a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, a SIG, Kahr, Glock 42, whatever. They said that pretty much everything eats this ammo. Well, I did not have such a great experience with this ammo. Again, it was not failure to fire or failure to extract. It was a failure to go into battery. Again, it wasn't as extreme as the MaxTech, so again, I gave it to, 100 rounds, 150 rounds. By the time I got up to 200 rounds, I figured this would start firing faithfully like the UMC. I was wrong. Again, it was getting stuck. Failure to go into battery, about that much. I again had to take the palm of my hand and basically force it into battery. And I actually, with this and the MaxTech, it was shaving off tiny little particles of brass because of the failure to go into battery. So it was doing that with the MaxTech. It was also doing that with the Fiocchi, but it was really bad with the MaxTech. The Fiocchi, like I said, I got all the way up to 200, 250 rounds, and it was still completely a pain in the ass to shoot this ammo. I mean, it made for a really bad range day. I was completely frustrated. In fact, I think I took the rest of this and just threw it in my bag and went back to shooting some UMC that I brought with me, and I knew it was firing perfectly. I basically, I changed the mag from using Fiocchi to using UMC, and the gun fired flawlessly instantly. It was definitely, it just does not like this ammo. So next up, I saw a pretty good deal come across for 1,000 rounds for PPU ammo. I didn't know much about this company when I ordered this ammo, but I had since found out that they manufacture the Wolf Gold ammunition, which you will see from time to time, and a lot of people praise that ammunition for just being very clean and no failures. So I figured I'm going to give this a try. Again, I ordered just a couple boxes of 50 round full metal jacket, brass casing. I had many failure to fires and failure to extracts. Again, within the first 100 rounds, I got to about 125 rounds and this ammo started firing flawlessly. So I can't stress this enough. Whatever ammo you're going to shoot with a Kahr CW380, and it might even be the same with a P380, which is like a more expensive version of the CW380. You need to take and probably put at least 150 to 200 rounds of whatever your favorite ammo is through this weapon before it's going to start firing reliably and failure free. It can be really frustrating, and a lot of people that are out there reviewing this weapon, I don't think that they went the full 200 rounds of breaking it in, and that's where you're seeing all the negative reviews about this weapon. But what I would definitely do is whatever ammo you're going to use for your regular target rounds and your regular defensive rounds, put 200 to 300 rounds of that ammo through. You will experience some failure to feeds, failure to fires, maybe even failure to go into battery the first 150 rounds. After that, it will clear up like magic, and it will be firing flawlessly and error-free after that. What I will tell you about the PPU ammunition is it's really dirty ammo. When I broke down my gun to clean it when I got home, I was amazed at how dirty the inside of my pistol was as compared to like UMC, which definitely fires a lot cleaner than the PPU. But unless you find a really good deal on UMC ammo, you're going to generally pay more money for that. Almost, I want to say, almost double the amount that you can get the PPU for. I want to say I got the PPU down to about 21 to 22 cents, and that was buying it in a 1,000 round case. It is great ammo. It's just it's very dirty. I mean, you go to the range, you fire about 300, 400 rounds through it, you're going to come home and your gun is going to be filthy. After that, I shot the round nose Winchester 380 full metal jacket brass through this gun. That was the only one actually that shot through this weapon without any type of failures whatsoever. From the time I put the first round in until I burned through a couple boxes of it, I never had problems with Winchester. I can highly recommend their round nose ammo. Whatever you do, don't go and buy the flat nose rounds. I do understand, and even Kahr says this on their website, that flat nose rounds, just because of how steep the feed ramp is in this weapon and in most 380s, I've heard of many people getting failure to feeds because that flat nose with the steep feed ramp just does not feed properly, especially in the Kahr CW380. You're going to encounter a really frustrating range day if you buy any type of flat nose ammo with this, and that includes some defensive rounds that I'll talk about in a minute. So that's a good segue. Let's break into defensive rounds real quick. So for defensive rounds, I kind of took a shortcut and I went on to YouTube and I was searching and I found a great channel, which is Shooting the Bull 410. He did a 380 comparison on the best defensive ammo out there for 380. And what he found was Precision 1. And it won by a pretty large percentage. I had never heard of Precision 1, and I don't believe he had either until they sent him their defensive rounds to try out in this ammo quest that you can look up, and I'll link to it in the notes. But basically, it is a hollow point round. It had the best penetration without over penetrating. It also had the best and most consistent expansion in a gel block using the FBI's standards of measure, and it was extremely consistent. So I ordered 300 rounds of this ammunition directly from Precision 1's website. It was the cheapest route to go. There are only a few places where I could actually find that were selling this, and it just turned out to be cheaper to go directly through Precision 1. So I will tell you, just like every other ammunition that's on this table, I had problems with the first 100 rounds of this ammo. I would say about every 15 to 20 rounds I would get a failure to feed or failure to extract. So what I did was I continued through the first 100 rounds. After the first 100 rounds, this ammunition functioned flawlessly. Just because it was going to be my everyday carry defensive round in my Kahr CW380, I went ahead and bought another 300 rounds of this ammunition, and I want to say I shot about 500 rounds of this ammunition through my CW380, and like I said, after that first 100 rounds, I experienced no issues whatsoever. So when I was having issues with some of the other ammo on this table, like the Max Tech or even the Fiocchi, I would switch magazines and pop in the Precision 1s, and the gun would automatically start firing every single shot without issue. So what I can tell you is, and you can research this, Precision 1 uses the Hornady Critical Defense bullet, and this is a very impressive round. Like I said, go over to AmmoQuest and see what they did to, and you'll be very surprised by the gel test. Now there are many other reviews out there for other types of hollow point ammunition, and some of them that I was seeing was Lehigh Defense was a real good one, but I was also noticing, and it was usually in forums, or you really had to dig deep to see and get reviews from people who fired it through a P380 car or a CW380 car. And when I did find those forums, I would find that the Lehigh Defense, which is basically a cross type bullet, would hang up on the feed ramp. So people were getting failure to feeds because the feed ramp was so steep. It was actually catching on the top of the barrel. So another defensive round that I found was the G2 RIP ammo that was getting a lot of really good reviews, especially for the way it expanded and broke off into gel tests. But what I did find is I went onto the manufacturer's website, and there is a disclosure on the bottom of the G2 RIP page for 380 that calls out Kahr CW380 and P380 specifically for failure to feed problems with the G2 RIP ammo. Basically, there is that it's a jagged type bullet. It actually has ridges that are cut into the edge, and those ridges, whenever they feed into the Kahr 380s, are catching on the top of the barrel. Because of how steep the feed ramp is, whenever the new round is stripped off the mag, it goes into the barrel and catches on the very top. So just for safety's sake, if you're going to carry either the G2 RIP ammo 380 or the Lehigh Defense, which has the kind of crisscross type of bullet, you should go out and fire those and make sure they're going to be reliable. Again, I recommend, if you're going to test out a defensive round, you should probably put about 300 rounds through your gun and make sure that it's going to work before you put it on your hip with that ammo. I hope I cleared up a lot of misconceptions and concerns about this weapon. It is a very reliable weapon once you go through the break-in period and once you find the ammo that works flawlessly in it. Like I said, every ammo that you run through this weapon, you're going to have to go through a 100 to 200 round break-in period with that ammo. So don't just fire 50 round box of some type of ammo through it, have issues, and then throw, never touch that ammo again. You should definitely fire about 200 rounds of whatever ammo you're going to use for target shooting, and I'd go at least 300 rounds of whatever you're going to use for a defensive round through this weapon before you rely on that ammo. And I hope this saves everybody else a little bit of headache and frustration. I always like to hear what other people are finding when they fire different ammunition through this weapon, and hopefully that'll help us all save us some headache at the range and list off the best and most reliable ammo for this gun.